Hey there, Rappies. Rapper9190 here, and welcome to another edition of Ryan's Day Reading. Today I'll be reading chapter 13 of Imprints, titled The Power of the Collective. And so, again, a recap from the previous chapter, 5 little words. They were really talking about what it takes to really build great relationships, friendships, the keys to those very strong, everlasting relationships. And it's all based on 5 words, which was honesty, vulnerability, accountability, intentionality, and community. I almost forgot for a second. I was like putting my comprehension to the test. So yeah, it's all based on that stuff. And again, I feel like the messages that are in these chapters, again, I think also what I meant to say, something else I forgot to mention in the previous video, the previous reading video, is that when I was talking about, when the book, it was talking about the keys to honesty, how everybody is afraid of rejection, and people just don't, that people are afraid to admit it. People are afraid to admit their weaknesses. I want to feel like I want to be speaking for you guys to know that it is okay to have those weaknesses and to not be afraid to admit them, because everybody has weaknesses. Everybody does have strengths and weaknesses. Strengths don't exist without weaknesses, and weaknesses don't exist without strengths. Just like there's good would not exist if there wasn't any bad or evil, and evil or bad wouldn't exist if there weren't any good in the world, So we can't have one without the other. Left wouldn't exist without right wouldn't, and vice versa. Up wouldn't exist without down, and vice versa. One for opposites there, one wouldn't exist without the other. I wanted to mention that part, but yeah, it's just those 5 words: honesty, vulnerability, accountability, intentionality, and community are the 5 key words. Those are the key ingredients to everlasting love, relationships, marriages, friendships. And by putting the first 4 words to use, the 5th word is the result of all of it. All right, so now we go into chapter 13, The Power of the Collective. And here we start again with another quote here. This one is from Vince Lombardi. Individual commitment to a group effort, that is what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, a civilization work. Yep, when every single person commits to a group and that group works together, teamwork makes the dream work. All right, here we go. For many, sports hold life lessons. Any decent coach knows that his success depends on the collective talent and dedication of the individual members of his team. One of the greatest FNL coaches in the history of the game knew this better than most. Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi not only understood that the success of his team required the contribution of each member, but he also recognized that the power of the collective is the key to success in everything, from family to business and from culture to government. Others are catching on. There is a growing trend of collaboration between socially minded businesses, philanthropists, governments, and nonprofit organizations who want to remedy complex social issues, like addressing the global problem of malnutrition or starting a statewide initiative to reduce teen substance abuse. When multiple parties with a variety of resources come together, In an effort to achieve large-scale and lasting change, the results can be incredible. This trend is known as collective impact, and we often see such collaborations affecting change by bringing health and nutrition resources to undeserved communities, addressing drug use in inner city neighborhoods, creating access to clean water in areas decimated by waterborne diseases, or providing counseling resources for the mentally ill. While the idea of bringing seemingly disparate groups together to address widespread social needs is gaining popularity, the concept is nothing new. We have all seen the effects of such an approach to challenging situations throughout history. It turns out Coach Lombardi was spot on. In recent history, an incredible example of collective impact is the response to the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey in southern Texas, a Category 4 hurricane. Harvey made landfall in Texas on August 25th, 2017, with winds of 130 miles an hour and torrential rains. The massive storm threatened the lives of millions of residents. Homes were destroyed, power was lost, access to fresh water was limited, and many lives were cut short. Harvey caused more than $125 billion in damage. Yeah, billion with a B. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to ruins. Schools and child care centers were left in disarray. And massive flooding prevented many from accessing much needed health care. In the wake of this disaster, people responded in an incredible way. Churches and organizations around the country loaded trucks with clean water, diapers, medical supplies, and clothing, and sent those trucks to the affected areas. Relief groups like World Hope International, the Children's Hunger Fund, and World Vision, among many others, provided funds, resources, and manpower to ease the suffering of victims. Temporary medical stations were erected, and hospital staff worked around the clock to make sure those affected received the care they needed. But perhaps the most notable story to come out of this disaster is that of the Justin J. Watt Foundation, or the J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt is known as an incredible defensive end for the Houston Texans, and his strength and athleticism have helped him become recognized as one of the most formidable defensive players in the NFL. But he isn't just known as a professional athlete. Watt is a philanthropist in a league all his own. His foundation, formed in 2010, is driven by the mission of giving children the opportunity to participate in after-school sports programs within a safe environment. But as Hurricane Harvey wreaked havoc on the residents of southeastern Texas, the organization saw a need of a different kind. In response to the devastation, J.J. Watt rallied the troops to bring hope and resources to the people affected by the storm's destruction. Through the efforts of his fans, a myriad of organizations, and his own resources, more than $41 million in relief was raised and distributed. Those funds were used to repair and rebuild homes, restore child care centers, give meals to millions, distribute medication to people in desperate need, and provide health to those going without. With the work of the Justin J. Watt Foundation is just one example, among many, where people have come together to meet the needs of so many who are suffering. Acts of comparison made possible by the hands of many working together for one common objective. Yep. All right. When a collection of individuals allow their passions, talents, and resources to merge, we find the human race is at its finest. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah, and that's this right here. And humanity is remarkable. Each person has the capacity to do great things. Bring two people together in a healthy working relationship, friendship, or marriage, and there is incredible potential for energy, love, and compassion to flourish. But when a collection of individuals allow their passions, talents, and resources to merge, we find the human race is at its finest. Yep. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah, that's the part I just read there. But collective impact isn't limited to addressing social epidemics or disasters. This concept of coming together to achieve more than we can on our own can and should be a part of our everyday lives. A biblical story in the book of Luke beautifully illustrates the power of what we can do to help others when we come together around a common goal. While Jesus was teaching, some proud religious law keepers and teachers of the law were sitting by him. They had come from every town in the countries of Galilee and Judea, and from Jerusalem. The power of the Lord was there to heal them. Some men took a man who was not able to move his body to Jesus. He was carried on a bed. They looked for a way to take the man into the house where Jesus was, but they could not find a way to take him in because of so many people. They had made a hole in the roof over where Jesus stood, and they let the bed with the sick man on it down before Jesus. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the man, "Friend, your sins are forgiven." The teachers of the law and the proud religious law keepers thought to themselves, Who is this man who speaks as if he is God? Who can forgive sins but God only? Jesus knew what they were thinking. He said to them, "Why do you think this way in your hearts?" Which is easier to say, "Your sins are forgiven," or "Get up and walk." So that you may know the Son of Man has the right and the power on earth to forgive sins. He said to the man who could not move his body, "I say to you, get up, take your bed and go to your home." At once the sick man got up in front of them. He took his bed and went to his home, thanking God. All those who were there were surprised and gave thanks to God, saying, "We have seen very special things today." And that's from Luke 5, Luke chapter 5, verses 17 to 26. There are a host of lessons within this scripture. Lessons about the power God has to forgive and heal. Lessons about the ills of religion trumping relationship. But the one that we take from this passage is one of community, one of collective impact. Because of the desire and energy of a group of men, a man who couldn't walk was able to experience something that would have been entirely out of reach had he been left to his own devices. Others saw his need and chose to be the man's hands and feet. Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening in what happens in "I'll Push You." That was, Patrick and other people who came along to help on the trail, on the Camino, were Justin's hands and feet. He wouldn't have been able to do the Camino all by himself if he was left to his own devices. So that's the exact same concept. We are all the man on the bed, needing others to carry us. And we all can be the men who tore a hole in the ceiling, looking for ways to ease the suffering of a friend. We are all victims of disaster, and we can all be the J.J. Watts of the world. We possess power, influence, and resources others need to make it through the day, but we often don't realize it. Every one of us has a cross to bear. We all have burdens, addictions, regrets, fears, and insecurities. And if we aren't careful, these burdens become stones we carry, weighing us down. And when our hands are filled with these burdens, we are prone to isolation. Our struggles alienate us from others, blinding us to our potential to show love, compassion, and grace. But when we enter into relationship and willingly pursue time with others, we begin to see we aren't alone in our struggles. When we partner with others, we become aware of the giftings and strengths they possess. Our collective talents and dedication to each other help us face whatever life throws at us. Soon, we find our community is a place where our burdens are set aside, lightening the load we carry. Sorry, I don't know why I stumbled there. Sometimes we see that we need to let things go. Other times, it takes someone else reaching out and taking the load from our hands. Albert Schweitzer was one of the most famous missionaries of the modern era. Schweitzer possessed PhDs in theology and philosophy and was an accomplished concert organist. In spite of this, he left behind both academic and musical careers so he could set up a medical clinic in French Equatorial Africa. When he was 85 years old, Schweitzer was visited by Andrew Davison of Colgate Rochester Seminary. Davison tells how one morning at around 11 o'clock, he, Schweitzer, and some others were walking up a hill near the medical clinic. The weather was extremely hot and no shade was to be found anywhere on the hill. Without warning, the 85-year-old Dr. Schweitzer turned and walked away from the group. They watched as he made his way toward an African woman struggling up the hill with a large load of wood for the cook fires. Schweitzer took the entire load of wood from the woman and carried it up the hill for her. When Schweitzer rejoined the group, one of them asked why he did things like that. Along with the rest of the group, this person was concerned that a man of Dr. Schweitzer's age could get injured doing such things. Dr. Schweitzer looked at the group, then pointed to the woman and said, "No one should ever have to carry a burden like that alone." We were never meant to carry the burdens of life alone. Something magical happens when we realize this. As we set our struggles aside, even for a moment, our hands are free to pick up the burdens of others, the burdens of another. This is when the true power of a community is realized, as we let others carry what we were never meant to carry on our own. We can turn to someone else who is struggling and lift their burden from their hands, freeing them up to do the same. Perhaps the late Coretta Scott King said it best. The greatness of community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. When community is fostered and we place the needs of others above our own, we become an army of people ready to jump in and help others through the death of a loved one, a painful divorce, and every other disaster that awaits. United, the challenges of parenthood, job changes, and financial struggles aren't nearly as challenging because together we can always do more and do it better. Now let me see, I want to say this part again. As we set our struggles aside, even for a moment, our hands are free to pick up the burdens of another. You know? Yep, and that concludes chapter 13. So now this is talking, so this chapter is talking about really the power of community, the true power that community has. And again, I could not have said any of this better myself, and I just really love how Patrick and Justin are really wanting to really share their experiences and hopefully really help others. And I hope I'm also hopefully being a vessel for that. That's really what I feel like I'm doing. I want to be a vessel and share it by reading this to you guys, because I don't want to think that I'm just reading the words to you. I think, there is something that can be learned out of this book, and also out of I'll Push You, all the books that they wrote all have a very educational purpose. And it's really something that really does apply to everyday life. And all these messages are so universal. And I really hope I really would wish that more people could see my reading videos, because especially with these books, because I can't express it enough how I just love the messages that sits in every single one of these chapters alone. And I want to be able to really share it with as many people as possible. Put something good out there to hopefully help. And really make it feel like I'm speaking for people, so that they don't feel alone and be like, yes, that's how I feel. I feel the exact same way. And be able to sympathize and empathize. I feel like once we do that, I think that's also really, it's really the key to start a community. And then it just snowballs from that point. Because then when you are able to trust each other, then, as they say, the burdens that you were never meant to carry on your own can be placed in someone else's hands. And it's so again, I hope that many people see these. I'm not trying to say that because I just want the attention or anything, because I really want to help spread these positive messages. So I know that, again, I feel like there's so much more I want to say about this, but I feel like, the book really explains it for itself. But I hope you guys, again, enjoyed that. So I'll just stop it there. Thank you guys very much again. Hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned next time for chapter 14, Opened Eyes. So and we're starting to get closer to the end of this book now, because there's 17 chapters in this book. So now we're only got 4 chapters left to go in this book. So I know I'm really looking forward to it. So, all right. Thank you, Rappies, very much again. Love you all to death. God bless, and I'll see you next time. All right. Bye.